At the end of the topic, you will be able to point out the reasons behind the formation of United Nations Organization, trace the background for the formation of the UN Charter, describe the flag, emblem and languages of UNO, highlight the objectives and the Millennium Development Goals of UNO. Introduction. The Second World War, 1939 to 1945, led to more loss of life than the First World War. The First World War resulted in the formation of the League of Nations, but it was not able to give peace and security to the nations. USA, USSR, and the UK felt the need to form a World Peace Organization. This led to the formation of United Nations Organization. Preliminary plans. The US State Development in 1939 brought out the concrete plan for the formation of the organization. The word United Nations was coined by Franklin D. Roosevelt, the former president of USA. It revealed that the Allied countries stood for peace. The Atlantic Charter was signed by 26 countries in Washington, D.C. The term United Nations was first officially used on January 1, 1942. Atlantic Charter. To maintain peace and security, a set of principles were formed. It was signed by former President Franklin D. Roosevelt of USA and the Prime Minister Winston Churchill of UK on 14 August 1941 in a ship, HMS Prince of Wales, in the Atlantic Ocean. Therefore, it was called Atlantic Charter, UN Charter. The United Nations Organizations was formed after many discussions in conferences held at various places. The first conference was held on 30th October 1943 at Moscow. The second was held on 1st December 1943 at Tehran. The third and fourth conferences was held on 21st September 1943 and 7th October 1943 in Dumbarton Oaks, and the fifth conference was held on 11th February 1945 at Yalta. The UN Charter was drafted in a conference in San Francisco on 25th April 1945. The Charter lists the aims, objectives and rules and regulations of the UNO. On 26 June 1945, it was signed by representatives of 50 countries. Later, the Charter was signed by Poland. 24th October is celebrated as UNO Day, for on this day in the year 1945, the UNO started to function. Membership. Peace-loving countries who agreed to the Charter became members of the UNO. There are 192 countries as members of UNO. The UN headquarters is located in Manhattan, New York. The UN Emblem. The UN Emblem is projected as a map of the world seen from the North Pole along with 5 concentric circles. The map is surrounded by a wreath of olives which represents peace. The world map symbolizes UN's concern for peace and security in the whole world. The UN flag. The UN flag has the emblem depicted in white on a medium light blue background. The official languages of the UN are English, French, Spanish, Russian, Chinese and Arabic. Objectives of UNO. To solve disputes through peaceful means, to maintain international peace and security, to develop friendly relations among member countries, to solve international economic, social, cultural or humanitarian problems, to promote social progress, improve standard of living and human rights. UNO Millennium Development Goals. The following are the Millennium Development Goals of the UNO. To eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, to achieve universal primary education, to promote gender equality and empower of women, to reduce child mortality, to improve maternal health, to fight against HIV, AIDS, malaria and other diseases, to ensure environmental sustainability, to develop a global partnership for development. In this topic, you have learned the need to form a World Peace Organization led to the formation of the United Nations Organization, the preliminary plans for the preparation of the UN Charter, the various conferences held before the formation of the United Nations Organization, the rules to become members of the United Nations, the various representations in the UN flags and the official languages of the United Nations Organization, the 5 different objectives of the UN, the 8 Millennium Development Goals of the UN. At the end of the topic, you will be able to list out the different organs of the United Nations Organization, describe the main functions of the General Assembly. Introduction. UNO was founded in 1945 as an international organization to maintain peace and security world over. This organization works on different issues and it takes action on a wide range of issues. The member countries can express their views through the organs and different agencies of the UNO.
There are 6 principal organs in the United Nations organization. They are General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, International Court of Justice, Secretariat. All these organs have a specific role in the international scene. There are also 8 specialized agencies which have been formed with a specific purpose.
The General Assembly is also called Parliament of Mankind. Each member country has one vote. 5 members from each member country can represent the General Assembly. Sessions are held in the month of September every year. The functions of this organ are as follows: to elect the President, 21 Vice Presidents, non-permanent members of the Security Council, and members of other organs of the UN, to pass the budget, to appoint the Secretary General and judges of the International Court with the recommendation of the Security Council. In this topic, you have learnt the UNO has 6 principal organs. The main organ of the United Nations organization is the General Assembly. The main functions of the General Assembly are to elect the President and Vice Presidents, to pass the budget and appoint the Secretary General. At the end of the topic, you will be able to describe the second important organ of the UNO, trace the main functions of the Security Council, explain the structure of the Economic and Social Council.
The Security Council is responsible for maintaining international peace and security. China, Russia, Britain, France, and the United States are the 5 permanent members of this council. These members have the veto power on any decision taken by the council. It has 10 non-permanent members who are elected by the General Assembly for a period of 2 years. The Security Council has great powers, and all the member states have to follow the decisions taken by the Council. It has the power to ask its member states to impose economic sanctions and cut down diplomatic ties with countries that are a threat to international peace. It also has the power to take military action against any state to maintain peace and security.
To ensure the existence of international peace and security, to solve disputes of the member countries in a peaceful ways, to recommend the admission of new members, to participate in the election of the Security Council.
The Economic and Social Council has to supervise the economic and social activities of the United Nations. It also looks after the activities of the specialized agencies. It has 54 members who are elected by the General Assembly. Each member serves a 3-year term. The Council makes recommendations in economic, cultural, educational, and health-related fields. It also promotes human rights and fundamental freedom for everyone.
In this topic, you have learnt the Security Council as the second most important organ of the UNO. The main function of the Security Council is to maintain international peace. The Economic and Social Council coordinates the economic and social functions of the UN. At the end of the topic, you will be able to trace the role of the Trusteeship Council, enumerate the functions of the International Court of Justice, examine the structure of the Secretariat, name some of the specialized agencies of the UN, critically analyze the achievements of the United Nations organization.
The Trusteeship Council. The Trusteeship Council is responsible for the trust territories which were formerly ruled by Western countries. It helps these countries to establish themselves as independent nations. As most nations are independent, now the task of the Trusteeship Council is now very limited. The International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice is located in Hague in Netherlands. It is a judicial arm of the United Nations. It has 15 judges who belong to different countries. The members are elected by the General Assembly and Security Council. Each judge enjoys a term of 9 years. The court gives advice on all legal matters to the General Assembly and Security Council. All the member nations of the UN have to adhere to the judgments passed by the court. The Secretariat. The Secretariat executes the day-to-day work of the UN. It is headed by the Secretary General. There are over 10,000 officials who work for the UN Secretariat. These officials are taken from 150 countries. The Secretary General is a Chief Administrative Officer. He has to follow the principles of the UN Charter. He presents an annual report to the General Assembly on the work of the organization. Mr. Ban Ki-moon of South Korea is the current UN Secretary General. Specialized agencies of the United Nations. The specialized agencies of the United Nations play an important role in the economic, cultural, educational, social, and health-related fields. Some of the specialized agencies are International Labour Organization, Food and Agricultural Organization, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, World Health Organization, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development or World Bank, International Monetary Fund, World Trade Organization, United Nations Children's Fund.
Achievements of the UNO. United Nations Organization is able to achieve its aim of averting global war through peaceful negotiation. The member countries are able to solve their social, cultural, economic, and humanitarian issues. World Health Organization has successfully eradicated smallpox and will soon eradicate polio, malaria, and tuberculosis. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, is constantly doing its work of resettling refugees. The UNO and its specialized agencies consistently work towards its goal of a safer world for a better tomorrow. In this topic, you have learnt the different organs of the UNO, the Trusteeship Council, International Court of Justice, and the Secretariat, the structure and the functions of the different organs of the UNO, the specialized agencies of the United Nations, the various achievements of the United Nations.